giving women permission for time. And
Yeah.
time is the hardest thing. We live in this microwave society. No one wants a
Right.
slow cooker. And to get your strength back, to get your mentality back, to get your sleep
Right.
back, to get any of that, it takes time.
You're listening to the Active Mom Podcast with host Dr. Carrie Pagliano. I'm a mom, physical therapist, and your go-to guide for staying active with pelvic health issues in pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, and beyond. Whether you're a fellow mom, physical therapist, or women's health professional, join me where I'll share expert insights, real-life stories, and the latest research to help you approach running, CrossFit, yoga, Pilates, HIIT, or whatever activity you love with confidence and evidence-informed guidance. Let's start the show. All right, welcome back to the Active Mom Podcast. Our next guest, I kind of found in a very interesting way. A lot of Facebook groups and things that I'm on, people are like, looking for content, and her name kept coming up. And I think we've kind of met each other in other circles via other people. And finally, I was like, you know what, the circles, it's time for them to collide and have Lindsey on the podcast. So Lindsey Bomgren, who is known as Nourish Move Love on Instagram, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. As you said, I've been admiring you from afar for a while, and you've been included in several of our content that we've published about postpartum content and pelvic floor health. So I've been admiring you from afar. So it's so fun to get to chat with you in person.
Yeah, no, and I get your all your emails and stuff, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, like how much stuff that you put out and so on. But how did you get into, like, first of all, training, like postpartum space? Like where did that come from?
Yeah. So basically, it was just kind of the evolution of me. I started Nourish Move Love 10 years ago. So pre babies in 2015. And so I hadn't had any kids yet, loved health and fitness, was an athlete my whole life, played college volleyball, was done with that, got into marathon training, got stress
Mm.
fractures in my feet, got
Mm.
really into strength training, did the whole fitness competition scene for a little bit, and then needed to find balance. I was doing medical sales full time. So I was working, loved health and fitness, and I just found my passion in the group fitness studio. I loved being in the group fitness studio. Everyone showed up. They had a good time. Like no one was on their phone. Everyone was there to get better. I loved the energy. I loved the music. Like I loved the group fitness studio. And I was like, I want to be that girl on the stage teaching
Mm.
classes. That sounds like my dream job. And so kind of pursued that, but that's not a career. It's not a career that supports a family. You get paid $30 a class because you love fitness, but it's not a career. And it's like, it's not sustainable. You can only teach so many classes a week.
Yeah.
And so I was like, how do I turn this into a career? And really started looking at the online space, and I wanted to give away all my content for free. And so when I was chatting with friends, I grew up in rural Minnesota. So
Hmm.
and when I was chatting with my friends, they're like, well, we don't have, like the closest thing is a Snap Fitness or an Anytime Fitness.
Right.
And it's,
Yep.
and so they were like, what do you mean take fitness classes and stuff? And I was like, what if I just
Right.
started filming myself and sending it to my friends, and like they could do the classes, have
Yeah.
access to them wherever. It's kind of like the thought process of how it was all born. And I was like,
Yeah.
I
So
saw
what
these.
year is this?
So 2015, I saw all
Oh
these
my gosh.
is when I started. So it was like it was before, being an influencer or content creator was really like a thing even.
Yep.
People were posting on, but I saw all these recipe bloggers, and I was like, they had old school blogs, like where you type like, I went over to grandma's today and we made this recipe, like the original blogging. And I
Hmm.
was like, how are they making money just sharing free recipes? Because I want to do that for fitness. I just want to share free
Right.
workouts. So I basically looked at the food blogger model and said, I'm going to do that for fitness, which was not the
Mm.
smartest because it took me a lot of time to make this bad boy work, because everybody eats, not everybody works out. At the
Right.
time, recipe bloggers were like whipping out their phone and taking a picture and posting it. And like, I have to film a workout video in order to
It's
show
more
you how to
work.
do. It's more
Yeah.
work. So not the smartest business idea, probably, but I was like, I just want to give away free workouts for everybody, like food bloggers are, but do it for fitness. So that was kind of the game plan. And that's what I set out to do in 2015. Did a bunch of odd jobs, personal train, all the things on the side to make this
Yeah.
work. Bunch of freelancing, but yeah, that's kind of how it was born. And then I'm glad I've stuck it out. And 10 years later,
Right.
fortunately, COVID was very generous to my business. The search
Yes.
volume for at-home workouts went up. So I've just really grinded it out, stuck it out, tons of consistent content, a lot of odd jobs
Yeah.
along the way. And now I'm very fortunate. I have a team supporting me and helping me, but we're still doing what I set out to do, which is film free workout content.
Isn't that crazy? And that's the thing, like, you look in the rear view and everybody's like, "Wow, she was so forward thinking for her time," right? And you're like, "Do you know what was involved in that?"
Like, no, I grinded it out. I remember teaching upwards, and I say this all the time. My first employee, Rachel, who is still with me, she's been such an amazing sidekick. But I remember teaching upwards of like 14 classes a week so I could pay her. Like I was teaching
Oh, wow.
in-person classes so I could pay her.
Right? I think that's the thing that people don't realize is like, especially with small business, there's so much hustle behind it. And you were doing that before you had kids. So like at what point, and you said your kids are 8, 5, and 3. Did I get it right?
Just about to turn 3. Yep, 8, 5,
Okay,
and just
got
about
it.
to turn
Okay.
3.
So what makes somebody who hasn't had any kids yet be like, I've already got the hustle. Let me go add some kids to it and see what happens.
It was just kind of like the seasons of life. So basically what happened is in 2015, I got married and I was like, I got health insurance with a husband. So I quit my job and I'm jumping on your health insurance. And that's when I decided to kind of launch into it. And of course I was doing a bunch of odd jobs on the side, but basically, yeah, it was kind of my life cycle. So for 2 years,
Mm,
2015 to 2017, I was like grinding it out, trying to start this business, was not replacing my income like I thought I would.
mm,
But it was like the season of life, and it was the next thing was to have kids. And so we had our first son. And like I said, I didn't really film any pregnancy or prenatal content during my
yeah,
first birth because I wanted to experience it myself. I'm a new mom. I have no idea what working out pregnant is
right.
like.
Yeah.
I was getting certified. I took like prenatal yoga and I was getting prenatal certifications. I went through the couple certification courses just because I was like, I want to educate myself on this,
Hmm.
but I didn't want to film a ton of content. And in fact, I saw it as like a downside. Honestly, I thought becoming pregnant was like a major downside to my business because I was like, how am I going to film these
Mm,
workouts? There was this pressure to be a fitness influencer who has 6-pack abs and looks a certain way. And like, no one wants to work out with a pregnant woman. If they're not pregnant, they're going to think my workouts are easy or whatever. So some of my hardest workouts are
wow.
filmed during my first pregnancy, like because I was gung ho on proving to people that like my workouts were still just as hard. Forget that I'm pregnant. You can still work out with me because my audience at the time wasn't moms. It was just,
Right.
general public. And so my first pregnancy, it was like trying to hide my pregnancy as long as I could, filming these hit workouts, and then, I went through it. And honestly, that's what really opened my eyes and actually helped my business was I was personally searching for pregnancy workouts that challenged me. And I
Mm,
couldn't find any. It was
no.
all don't get your heart rate above
Yep.
140,
Yep.
lift your leg, don't lift heavy weights. And I was
Yep.
like, what about me? I'm an athlete. I've been training before pregnancy. I want to maintain throughout pregnancy. I still want to challenge myself. I don't feel
Yeah.
broken. I have no limitations. I was very fortunate in my pregnancy, had no limitations. And so I couldn't find anything. And I was like, there needs to be more workout content for women that are pregnant that want to be
Yeah.
challenged. And that I saw as a huge gateway opportunity for my business. And it has been a significant opportunity. And then on the
Yeah.
flip side of that, postpartum, first time ever being postpartum, I had no idea what diastasis recti was. No one talked to me about this. And I was experiencing it myself, trying to find free online content. Couldn't find anything. I didn't even
Mhm.
know pelvic floor physical therapy was a thing until my second baby. I didn't even know that was a thing until my second baby. Like no one told me. It was like I had no idea.
Wait, who went
And
on TikTok yet?
right, there was no one was on the social media telling me that this was a
No,
thing. And
no.
so it was really just all gateway. It was my life cycle that really led to this. And I was like, there's no online content for women postpartum. Like, how am I supposed to
Mhm.
re-enter working out? What's safe for me? What's not safe for me?
Yeah.
When can I start running again? When can I start jumping again?
And you found
Nothing.
nothing.
I found nothing. So I was like, um, hello,
Yeah.
where is this content? And I just saw it as an opportunity for my business and my whole goal because not everyone has, again, I'm from rural Minnesota. Not everyone has access to this. Finding a pelvic floor physical
Mhm.
therapist in Minnesota is still challenging.
Hard.
There's
Yep.
not a ton of them.
Yep.
And so I was gung ho and I set out and I found a pelvic floor physical therapist after my second baby because I
Mhm.
had experienced I had a 4-finger gap after my second pregnancy. And that's when I was like, okay, I think something is wrong here. I really should get help.
Yeah.
And honestly, I sought out pelvic floor physical therapy because I had really bad hemorrhoids after my
Oh,
second
the
baby.
worst. Yep.
And I found a physical therapist here in Minnesota, and she was willing to help me. She was willing to film some content with me. And I was like,
Oh,
this is amazing. This is going to change women's lives because it's just not
yeah.
available. And
Yep.
it is to this day, our most popular video is filmed on my iPhone. 8 best diastasis recti exercises. I don't know. It's got millions of views on YouTube, but it's our most popular content. And it was literally me
Yeah.
at like 6 weeks postpartum filming how I'm working with a
Right?
pelvic floor physical therapist to heal my core.
Oh my gosh. Well, your
And
story,
I think it
it's
proves that there's just a need. There was a lack for that
yeah.
content.
Yeah. Well, it's just your story is such a parallel to just so many things that were going on at that time period that I think back, like, I mean, even and this is the part that I've just been so focused on lately is just understanding the history is like, first of all, we didn't have women necessarily being accepted in gyms and running, pregnant or things like that. And then if they did, they kept to their communities. And then slowly it was like, all right, well, okay, we can talk about it now. It's kind of okay. But then we don't have like, who do we go to? And that's actually how I got into kind of working a lot with athletes was I'm like, all right, I'm starting to see more of them in pregnancy postpartum that they're already doing this stuff and I don't if I tell them to just do this gentle stuff, which is what we were taught, like they're basically going to give me the middle finger and I'm never going to see him again. And so I was like, all right, I got to figure something out here. And then obviously now the research is kind of coming up behind us, so it's really been interesting to watch women wanting to be more active and not finding resources, us as providers being like, okay, well, there's nothing in the research, so we're going to do the best we can with what we know and try and help that person in front of us. And now see the research start to come up behind. It's really cool to kind of see that exactly was your experience. And kudos to you for not, like, on one hand I'm like, I can't believe that being pregnant you saw as like a deficit, but I can totally get it in that time period where, I don't want some pregnant lady teaching me things, what does she know? But also at the same time, good on you for not trying to make a pregnancy video while you're pregnant. There's nothing right now that gets my goat more than these moms that are like newly pregnant and they don't know what the frick they're doing. And they're like, all of a sudden they've got a new video and they're doing their postpartum video and they haven't even had their baby yet. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And that was really my goal. Like you said, like I was like, I have no idea. So I wanted to experience it. And then I really
Yeah.
experienced it with my second. And then we
Hmm.
filmed our prenatal and postpartum programs with my third. Cause I felt like, okay, I am fully equipped now. I worked with two different pelvic floor physical therapists. I've like gone through this. I know what to
You
expect.
got it now.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was just, yeah, for me, it was what felt best. And it's like, it's such a learning curve. It's still, every pregnancy was different. I experienced
Oh
with
yeah.
one and not with the,
Yep.
every pregnancy, it's just different. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm assuming you didn't have the third for production purposes, right? You're going to have the third anyway, right?
You know what? My husband will still say to this day that he's like, I think this was a business decision. And I'm like, it was not, but it was good for business.
I bet. Oh my gosh. That's funny that he says that now. So for you, as you're kind of thinking about how you've figured out kind of what people are asking for and what they're going to benefit from, and kind of reflecting back on the stuff that you couldn't find, what are the maybe the three or four things that you find? Let's talk about pregnancy first. Like, what are moms looking for, especially those first time moms that are like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and I'm just going to do a Google search and see what comes up. Like, what do you find they're looking for?
Yeah. And I think it's like anything nowadays. It's so confusing. I think you're seeing on social media now, like the reels going around, like, should I drink warm water, cold water, tap water, like water out of plastic? Like, so confusing. What water is good for me? And I think it's even amplified
Yeah.
in pregnancy and postpartum because, especially, you're going into this, and we often joke, me and my team joke that we're the first people to find, or we are the first to know when someone's pregnant outside of their husband. Like, they literally DM us,
Oh,
like,
I usually am too. Yeah.
like in the DM, like, I'm pregnant. What do I do? And I'm like, okay, you're like 4 weeks pregnant. No need to
Right.
change anything.
Right.
And they're like, I haven't even told my husband yet, but I'm pregnant. And like, how do I work out?
Oh my
And
God.
then the same DMs are coming in from a woman who's in her third trimester, like, okay, I'm in my third trimester, about to have this baby. When can I start working out again postpartum? And it's like always
Yeah.
just getting ahead of ourselves. And it's really hard, like you said, to like, it's so hard to blanket advice for women
Hmm.
in pregnant. I get DMs all the time, like, I have diastasis recti. I wish I do. And I'm like, okay, well, is it your first, your second, your third? Like,
There's so many questions, right?
yeah, like
Yeah.
I can't, like, you need to be like, I'm
Right.
not a, and I'm not evaluating you, but there's just so many variables that go into
Hmm.
every decision. Is it, do you have any limitations? Are you experiencing sciatica, SPD? Like,
Yeah.
there's just so much. So it's really hard to give advice. And I think it's just really confusing for women and it's so murky. And
Yeah.
so I think they're just looking for, and that's why we created a first trimester, a second trimester, and a third trimester. And it was like
Mhm.
my experiences. And I'm really glad that I'm pregnant in all of them. Like, of course, I can still create pregnancy workouts now,
Yeah.
but it's just different. It is like,
Mhm.
I even forget what it's like to have that heaviness and like
Yes.
all the things. And so I'm so glad I filmed them when I'm pregnant. They're just relatable. And so I think people are just looking for like that relatability. Someone
Yeah.
else is telling me they're tired and it's okay to not work out in the first trimester because you're exhausted and
Mhm.
you're growing a human. So just like the relatability and but it's still so overwhelming and it's hard to give blanket advice, as you know. But
Yeah.
our like life cycle is women either find us because they get pregnant and they start searching
Yep.
pregnancy workouts,
Yep.
or it's postpartum and you realize how much of a luxury it is to go to the gym and to take group fitness classes. If you are an
Mhm.
active gym goer, it's now a luxury to go to the gym because you have a human to care for and your time's crunched,
Right.
whether you're a working mom or a stay-at-home mom. And so
Yep.
they just need at-home resources. And that's really what we step in as women find us postpartum and they're like, okay, I need to start, doing something for myself again.
Yeah.
And I'll always say, like, fitness has always been more for my mental health than my physical
Mhm.
health, especially as a mom.
Yeah. No, I think so too. And it's so interesting again how people come to exercise. And sometimes pregnancy is the thing that brings them to it. And they're like, okay, well, I'm pregnant now. I suppose I should work out. And that's a whole different conversation and approach than say somebody like yourself, where you're like, no, I've done marathons. I'm very active. I'm pregnant. How do I, know what level of activity I can keep up with? And again, 2015, we didn't.
No, and it's like, and the thing is the research is still changing. When I filmed my
Yeah.
first diastasis recti content with a pelvic floor physical therapist, what
Hmm.
was recommended then is different from now. It was like,
Yes.
no coning or doing. Now it's like soft coning is great. We want to avoid the heart, so it was like even stuff has changed in the last how many, it's continually
So
changing.
so let's talk about that because I feel like okay, you've mentioned two things, diastasis and coning and doming, and I feel like they've become like they were nothing, and then it became this big thing, and I call them the gateway drugs to actually getting care because typically anybody that comes to see me about diastasis recti, my joke is that 95% of Northern Virginia thinks that they have diastasis and they don't, but somewhere in that evaluation we're talking and they happen to mention that they have leakage or they happen to mention their prolapse symptoms and I'm like, great, I'm glad you came because of diastasis. No, you don't have it. I'm Oprah. You can have abs. You can have abs. Like you can do all these things now. But how about we talk about your leakage? Like why is it that diastasis will not die? And also having navigated it myself, I mean, yours is probably very similar. Like it's my party trick. I can make it pop up. I can make it do whatever. Like it's my party trick. Like, but why won't it die?
It is funny because when I'm laying out, my kids will always stick their fingers in. They'll be like, you have a hole.
You're like,
And
yes,
so,
and you made it. Thank you.
yeah, I can do this.
They always
And
stick their elbow in it too. And the dog does it too.
And I think the biggest misconception there is that it's all about this like gap. Like I have this gap. How am I ever going to get rid
Mhm.
of this gap? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
one, you don't have to get rid of it.
Yep.
Two, it's not even about the gap. It's about the tension you can generate across the gap.
Yep.
And I think that those are like, that's the one thing I want all women to know. Forget the gap. How much tension can you generate
Yep.
across the gap? Like that's what we should be focusing on here. And like you said, it's always like there's always an underlying issue. For me, it was
Hmm.
diastasis, but it was really like I need to be at a pelvic floor physical therapist for my hemorrhoids because I can't have a bowel movement
Yes.
without wanting to die. And
Right.
so like learning just how to like push my rib cage out versus down and control my diaphragm and actually what's happening in here in my internal pressure system was
Yeah.
like so important for me. And because there's the one thing, and I'm still searching for this, Carrie. So if you
Hmm.
can help me out,
Okay.
every fitness instructor, including myself, the
Hmm.
number one thing we say during workouts, engage your core. Your core should be activated right now while you're doing this bicep curl. Engage your core. What does that mean? Like to someone's like, tell me what engage my core means. And I have, for me, the biggest cue, and I think this is the thing is everybody has to find the cue that works for them. The
Hmm.
cue that works for me to make that mind muscle connection of engage my core is pull my hip bones together. And
Hmm.
that is how I can activate
Yep.
my core.
Yeah.
Pull your hip bones together. Like no matter whether I'm laying, standing, whatever it is, for me, it's hip bones together. And I
Hmm.
can feel that activation happen. But I think it's so different for everybody. And you have to
It
find
is. But this is where,
So instead of saying engage your core, what should I say?
well, you're talking to a PT. The answer is it depends. But no, but here's the thing though, is that the first point is, the fact that I only started learning about pressure management probably like the early 2010s is the fact that it's quickly getting out to coaches and trainers and that sort of thing. Number one is amazing. Number two, this is where I get in trouble with other pelvic floor PTs. And I can say this now, and I couldn't necessarily say this when I was head of our association. I was like, I don't think everybody needs to see a pelvic floor PT. And this is why. Because I think even people that have asymptomatic and even just with some symptoms, I think I have this rule of thirds. A third of the people, it really doesn't matter what the cue is. And they're going to be fine. I think a third of people, that cue, engage your core, whatever the hell that means to them, they're going to translate it. So it's going to be what you wanted. And then there's a third of people that cue is not going to translate and it's not going to make things better, or it's going to make things worse. And that's where we come in. And I do think that's, the benefit of group exercise. And one of the first things that I talk to my patients is, okay, tell me what you were doing before this. Is this something that you want to do afterwards? Now let's see. And I'm really lucky. I have real-time ultrasound imaging here. So I can have somebody, I'm like, okay, what are you taught in class? What's the cue? And then they show me what they do with that cue. And then we can actually see literally in black and white, they don't have to take my word for it, is what's happening when you respond to that cue, because you can get something completely different. And that's why I was like, it kind of depends, but sometimes it matters and sometimes not. So
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I think the one cue that drives me bananas, and it's a cue that I think we were given early on. And then once I got imaging, I'm like, ooh, that's not it at all. When people cue that when you're using deep abdominals, you should, if you put your hands inside your pelvis bones or right in the front of your abs, if you feel your abs pop into your finger, that's transversus. And that couldn't be further from the truth. That's internal oblique. When you engage transversus, you don't feel a damn thing on the outside. Like you can put your hands there, don't feel anything. And I think that's the subtlety. But again, how many people does that actually matter? I think if you're having pressure management issues where pushing out is not a good thing and it might increase symptoms of prolapse or leakage, those are the people that we're going to need to get on top of. But, and that's where, again, we just don't have data. But anecdotally, what I can tell you is if somebody's coming in, they're having back pain or worsening symptoms when they're going to class or when they're responding to these certain cues, that's the first thing I'm going to look at is be like, all right, that cue doesn't work for you when you're in that class or when you're, taking, Lindsay's class online or something like that. When she says this is what you're going to do instead. And then they're good. And I'm like, this is just a framework, an overlay that's individual to you. Now you can go ahead and do the class. It's all good. It's just for you, we need to do things a little bit different because how your brain's interpreting that cue isn't the way that it was intended. But no, the engager core, I wish I had a day, maybe not a day, but like, I wish I had a few hours where I didn't know anything about the body. Because I can't answer that without it being a biased answer. Like I really don't, I don't know. Like I know 26 years, I can't do it unbiased. But no, it drives me nuts when people are like engage your pelvic floor. And I'm like, how do people know what that is?
What does that mean?
Like, how did you figure out? It's kind of like when you're in childbirth and they're like, push, and you're like, well, I am. And they're like, no, you're not. And you're like, how am I supposed to know what's happening?
Yeah. And it's funny because the first couple of visits I had, the first time I ever went and saw a pelvic floor physical therapist, that's, engager. And for me, she was like, oh, it's just
what
glutes.
the hell?
All you're doing is glute. And that's when I learned how glute dominant I am. And that's probably, years of fitness training, but how glute dominant I am.
Right.
Anytime you tell me engage my core, it's just me.
It's glutes. Yeah.
Glutes.
Yeah. And and again, I think that goes back to, everybody's background and experience. It's the same thing with breast strategies. Like when you're telling people, what's the one that comes out all the time? Exhale on effort. And I don't know where it became on effort. I always learned it as before, and I have the ultrasound imaging to kind of back me up. Whereas if you have that person, if you don't have imaging and they're exhaling, and let's say they're the least bit delayed, and this can happen a lot in pregnancy because that engagement or that tension takes a while to, I joke around that the belly changes zip codes. You want to make sure that that's on before you go. So if you do your exhalation and drawing in before the effort, then you can be sure that by the time you get to the hardest part of the effort, it's on and ready to go. But if you're delayed and you do exhale on effort, you don't know if that timing is going to match up. But I hear that one all the time, and they're like, yeah, it's exhale on effort. And I'm like, or is it? I'm like, just in case, since you don't have the fancy imaging machine, maybe like plan ahead. I don't know. I mean, is that
Yeah.
one that you've heard too?
It's funny because I always say you should be exhaling during the hardest portion of the movement.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how
Yep.
I cue it, is like you should
Yep.
always be exhaling during the hardest portion of the movement. But
Yep.
thinking about that, like it should almost, like, you're right, it should be
A little bit
getting
before.
ready to do the
Yep.
hardest part of the movement. So like when I'm at the bottom of the squat, like before I
Yep.
even come out of that hole, I should be
Yep.
exhaling,
But
which
that's
is
I was going to say, but
not
that's the
something
other
I do.
one. And it depends though, too, because if you're not symptomatic, there's no reason to dive into that. And that's where I'm like, there's only, and it's nuanced when these little cues matter, but letting people know that, hey, if this cue that I'm saying doesn't make sense to you, this might be, or it's not giving you the desired result, or you're having symptoms, that would be an opportunity to refer out or something like that. Because if I have somebody, I mean, like if you're doing squats and you're exhaling on the effort and you're totally fine, great, that's
Yeah.
fine. But if you're leaking or you're noticing pressure or something like that, okay, maybe we want to try a different strategy. And it's so funny because I feel like Oprah. And I'm like, what if we did it sooner? You get squats and like all of a sudden, like it's magic. And I feel really cool. But I'm like, no, it really wasn't that hard.
Yeah, and the other thing I think is just like we're just taught so much to like how to control our pelvic floor, how to contract it, but like we never
Mm,
talk about like lengthening or
yeah.
taking the muscle through
Yep.
that full range of motion.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's something I try to like be cognizant of at the end, especially during a cool down, is like telling women to actually like
Yep.
release, like think about actually breathing out of your
Yeah.
butthole right now. And
But
like,
some people don't even know what that is because they never have experienced it. Like I joke because I've lived in DC 20 some odd years, so I feel like I can say that. I mean, we're a little tight ass around here, like especially lately. No, it's one of those things that like they don't know what lengthen is because they've never been there. So I think that's another context too. Like I would be really curious. I was just talking to a researcher and I come up with ideas all the time and I'm like, I'm going to make work for you guys. I'm like, that would be a really cool study to do with like a group like yours where like when you say lengthen, what does that mean to you? And do you feel like you're actually doing it? And then be able to image them and be like, are you doing what you think you're doing? And what percentage of people are accurate and what aren't?
yeah,
And does it matter? I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Okay, so I have to ask you now, flipping the coin.
Yeah,
So
go.
what do you see that's happening in like, the social world, or just what's circulating right now
Mhm.
that like drives you absolutely bananas? That you're like, this is misinformation.
um, are we talking just pregnancy postpartum?
I mean, you can just general pelvic floor health, I think in
Um,
general.
there's still some so obviously my super hyper niche right now is working with runners, and I still, and this makes no sense to me. People that are trying to say that you have to breathe a certain way when you run to pre-activate your pelvic floor before your foot hits the ground. And
I
I'm
didn't
like,
even think about doing that.
right. And I'm like, why does anybody? So they're basically trying to take a concept that works really well with lifting. So I do, CrossFit style lifting. I do conditioners, those sorts of things. Like, I think doing a particular breath strategy is really easy with something that's slow and intentional. I think you can, excuse me, even do breath strategies with some dynamic things. So like if you're doing, jump squats or things like that, or you're even doing jump rope or double unders, like I think there's breath strategies or ways that you can breathe. But running is just so dynamic and automatic that I'm like, why? I'm like, you can't, like, you
No,
can't.
I'm like, how would I? Yeah, I couldn't
Right.
even.
No,
It
but
would.
there's
It would
people
be an
doing that.
enjoyable run.
I know,
It
but
would
you're
be
just,
an enjoyable
I'm
run.
like, what are you going to exhale before your foot hits the ground? So like, are you going to be like constantly?
Yeah.
So that one's weird. Gosh, what's another one? Um,
And the other thing I was thinking is, as you were talking through that, I think the
mhm.
biggest thing is too, is like there's this for me, it was so life giving. You go through pregnancy, you come back for the first time postpartum, and it's the most humbling experience in my,
Mhm.
especially if you're an athlete. It's just
Mhm.
humbling.
Mhm.
It's just humbling. You go from being able to crank out 20, 30 push ups on your toes to like
Yeah.
square one.
Mhm.
And so it's a very humbling experience. And you can have that thought pattern of like, I'm never going to be able to do a push up, a pull up. I'm never going to be able
Yeah.
to do a jump squat. I'm never going to be able to do double unders, like these
Yeah.
higher achieving things that I could once do without even thinking. I'm never
Mhm.
going to be able to do this again. And
Right.
like, there's no way my body's going to get back to this capacity. And then it is just miraculous to watch it happen. And it takes time. And I
Mhm.
think that's the biggest misconception is everyone's like, well, yeah, I should be running again by 6 weeks. My doctor says I'm clear. I should be running
Yeah.
again by 12 weeks. And running for me is like one of the most accessible things for women because you now have a baby. And if you're
Right.
a stay at home caregiver or even do your maternity leave or whatever, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I can put the baby in a stroller and now I'm with the baby and I can get
Yeah.
physical exercise. So it's the easiest way to get physical exercise with
Yeah.
your baby. So it's
Yeah.
the easiest like return strategy, but it's also probably,
It's
it can be the harder. But I
yeah.
loved, and this is how I originally got to know Carrie, is like through researching, returning to running and all this stuff. And your return to run program is just awesome. I love your approach to postpartum fitness health. And just like, not sugarcoating it that like we're not wallflowers. It's not like we can't do
Yeah.
this. You very much have control and can do this. But
Yeah.
yes, there are certain standards you should be able, there's certain body functions you need to be able to do before you can just jump out there and do this.
Yeah. No, and I think, and I don't know if this is your experience too, but I feel like depending on what kid people are on, you have to approach it in a very different way. So first time I feel like, and myself included, like I feel like we have something to prove. And we think we have it all planned out, and whether or not our kid aligns with that or read the manual or whatever, that remains to be seen. But like I feel like first time moms, they're scheduling the marathon while they're pregnant, like I'm gonna get to this, da 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 da. And then I think they chill out a little bit. And then, they're exhausted through a second pregnancy and having to take care of another kid and work and all that stuff. And then I feel like they're a little bit kinder to themselves the second time around. And after that, I can't speak personally, but my other thing that I've seen is moms that have more than 4 kids put themselves first so much faster. And like those moms, like I'm seeing them 2 to 3 weeks postpartum. They're right in here. They're like, somebody's got the kids. Nobody's going to die. I'm taking care of myself. And I was like, wow, it took 4 kids to get that part figured out.
That's so true. I always say each kid has chilled me out. Like each kid has taken me down a notch. You know what I mean?
Wait. I know I hate when people are like, well, wait till, yeah, it's going to keep going. I'm just going to tell you that.
Each kid has just taken me down a notch and like
Yeah.
chilled me out.
Yeah.
And you just get to know your body better and, you lower
Yeah.
your expectations. And for me, it was like, I, I think there's perks that come out of it too. For me, pregnancy and postpartum proved to me that I can be stronger than I was prior to
Mm-hmm.
baby with
Mm-hmm.
less effort if I'm doing it correctly. I
Right.
was like, the girl who was in the group fitness studio teaching classes, the HIIT training, 15-pound weights, whatever, going and going and going and going. And I realized that like in a 30-minute session, if I lift heavier and harder and slow it down, I can genuinely see such more significant
Yeah.
results. And like
Yeah.
that was game changing for me, especially because my energy levels, like as you have children, like I only have so much energy and it can be gone by
Right.
10 a.m. or it can be gone, especially when you're pregnant. I was like,
Yeah.
if I do a work, I have to work out in the morning when I'm pregnant because by 3 p.m., nothing is
Oh, you're
happening.
done. No. You're done. You're
And
done.
so it's like I only have so much energy. And I realized I was actually getting more like life giving energy from doing like a strength session than I was this like,
Yeah.
crazy hit workout. And so for me, that was like just so eye opening during pregnancy
Yeah.
and postpartum. It's like I actually saw myself come back stronger because I approached fitness differently.
Yeah. Well, I think as a parallel, even just strength training, period, I think was coming into its own around the same time that you're kind of discovering this, especially for runners. Like back
Yeah.
in our 20s, we're like, nah, no, we don't need to, we just run, right? And then, I think we have so much more data now that says, hey, lifting heavy, and picking up that barbell, like that's going to make your running performance better. You're just going to be so much stronger. We've got great data now saying that does not impact the fetus at all in a negative way. In pregnancy, postpartum outcomes are the same. Like, yes, we need to keep lifting, doing all this stuff. But no, I feel like, again, like society was cool with it. We've got some research going along saying, hey, this is actually really good for you. And as a mom, like you're all about efficiency. I'm like, how little do you need to do so no one dies?
And when
I,
people ask me why I love pull ups so much, it's because it is the most efficient exercise I can do in the shortest amount of time to work my back, my biceps, my shoulders, my core. And literally, I can do 10 reps in and pair that with squat, like just go back and forth between pull ups, push ups, or pull up squats, or
Mhm.
squats, pull ups for 20 minutes. I'm gassed. I got a great workout. And in 20 minutes, I was so effective.
I'm such a fan of kind of introducing people to things that they haven't done before, but might be easily accessible. So every dad has one of those like hanging doorway pull-up bars in the basement, right? Because dad was going to make a workout. And so I hijacked ours and brought it over to my office. And of course, my husband's like, you can't take that. I need that. And of course, he replaced it and doesn't use it. But anyway, I digress. Um, I love anything hanging for just core period because again, you're having to hang, it's a longer lever arm, and then we'll do single, double leg raises, and we'll do kind of around the worlds where we're doing obliques. Like it's one of my favorite things to get lower abs and also work on grip strength for moms and that shoulder, girdle, lats, all of those things. And dad's not using it. So I love
I
to introduce people to that. I was like, he won't even know.
the after my third baby, the first thing I went and saw the pelvic floor physical therapist for after
Mhm.
third baby, and the first thing I said, "Can I get on the pull up bar and show you
Mm.
how many pull ups do you think I can do? And like, is this safe? And at
Oh my
what
God.
point can I start progress? You know, like that was
You're
my
so
first thing. Was
funny.
like, I was just like, I want to do pull ups. That's the number one. She was like, "What do you want to get back to?" I was like, pull ups,
Yeah,
because
totally.
just you can't. I could not do them through second and third trimester.
Because
Just
it's just heavy.
personally, I
Yeah.
couldn't. I couldn't.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
But
funny.
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh.
love pull-ups too, especially for women. It's just a strong, powerful movement. And like you said,
Yeah.
it like opens up your shoulders if you're spending time hunched over baby.
Hmm.
And it's just so good.
Yeah, that and getting women who've never been under a barbell before, introducing that to them, those are like my two keys to badassery. I was like, those two things will make you feel like invincible if you can do those.
Yes. And it's just, now I think of everything as I do as a functional effort. So like literally
Hmm.
it's so funny, like getting up off the ground is a lunge and bending
Hmm.
over and putting the big, heavy, clunky double stroller into the back of the van is like that's why I deadlift. And
Yep.
so it's just it's so functional for moms. So like while fitness can be wrapped up in this aesthetic world, for me, it's like
Yeah.
for moms specifically, I think that fitness brings so much to the table in the sense of like allowing you to do what you were designed to do, which is you're carrying around 25-pound car
Yep.
seats, not even with with the baby. You've got groceries in the other hand, you're constantly multitasking, you got a 30-pound toddler on the hip,
Yep.
like we're just active individuals as moms, and to
Yeah.
have that strength and like the back pain, the hip pain, all these pain elements that come along with it can be mitigated by building a strong foundation and skeletal system. And then also it's just the confidence and the mental health.
Yes, all of that, all of that. I did think of something that does bother me, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this because I'm this is another avenue I think why people get into exercise and pregnancy and postpartum is the body weight and the body image conversation, and that one just is always a dagger to my heart. Like when you have that mom that I had one recently. She went back to work really early, probably the earliest of any patient I've ever had, like a week or two after a C-section back to work. And 4 months now, we got her in the gym really early, got her cleared so that she's getting her, regular workouts and she's doing phenomenally. I'm so proud of her. Um, but friends and family are asking her when she's going to lose the baby weight, and she's still lactating, and telling her, she should lay off the carbs. And I just like my heart breaks. And I was like, I don't even know where to start with that. But I know that it's very much a real thing being in a body that you don't recognize, and whether you anticipated that or not is a whole other conversation, and how to navigate, people telling you that, when are you going to look like yourself again? You're like, well, this is me. Like, what have you kind of run into with people as far as that's concerned, and what's been your experience?
Yeah, it's the number one reason I will never, and I actually hope that I genuinely mean this because things could change. But we have never, and it is my intention to never use. And I know they're powerful for selling, but like transformation, the before and after, the 9 months
Yeah.
in, 9 months
Yep.
out, like those can, I think, are just so detrimental.
Yep.
Like literally, women are sharing themselves 1 week postpartum, and then they're like, look what I accomplished in a year, whatever. And it's like, I'm so happy that you feel strong and that like
Yeah.
that's great. But it's just like you're comparing your 1 week postpartum body, which was just, carrying a human and doing all these amazing things, to
Mhm.
like, 9 months, a year later, like, of course you look different. Of
Right.
course, like, of course you look different.
Right.
And it just feels, I don't know. The transformational, the before and after, like, I'm so glad that women are going through transformations that make them feel strong and
Mhm.
powerful. But it's just a marketing strategy that I think is detrimental because just you fall into this like comparison. I mean, I'm
Yes.
a fitness trainer. I'm pretty fairly confident in my body. I show up on camera, all these things. But I remember, especially during pregnancy and postpartum, it's when women are like the most vulnerable, and
Yeah.
especially to
Very
marketing
much.
ploys. Like you're the
Yes.
most vulnerable. You're the most uncomfortable in your body, maybe, or whatever, you're experiencing things you've never experienced before. And so it just feels like a marketing ploy targeted at just your vulnerability and your comparison.
Yeah.
And for me, I've just always tried to, like, during my pregnancy and like during pregnancy, I try to like encourage, like, yes, pregnancy, weight gain is a natural part of pregnancy.
Mhm.
If you do not build strength during pregnancy, you are going to be your heaviest at ultimately your weakest.
Yeah.
And that's just where you're set up for injury, not success, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the mind shift was viewing like weight gain. I'm going to gain weight during this pregnancy, right?
Mhm.
Like that is a natural part of it. I never carried little. You can look at all my
Neither
my,
did I.
I never carried little. My belly was out there, and I enjoyed that because then people like knew I was pregnant. It was, it is what it is, but I carried large. And so it was flipping the script of like, this is going to happen. But if I don't continue to maintain, I don't need to gain and get,
Mhm.
do anything crazy. But if I can maintain that level of strength, then I will be strong at my heaviest. Because this
Yeah.
is going to be the heaviest I am in my life for me at
Yeah.
this season. And so, but then the postpartum is where it gets really vulnerable. And that, I think, is just the hardest battle because
Yep.
there's just these expectations, whether or not you want the bounce back, the anything,
Yep.
it's often self-imposed,
Yep.
but it's just out there. It's
It's hard
there.
to
You see the
avoid.
9 month
Yeah.
in, the 9 month out photo.
Yep.
It's out there. It's everywhere. And so,
Yeah.
how to combat that, I genuinely don't know. But I think we shared a reel, and it's been one of our like most viral content. Is like me sharing the baby, like me lifting with my big pregnant 9 month belly, and
Mhm.
then me lifting, and it says, what's the difference between these two? And it says
Mhm.
2 years. And I think just starting to open up that conversation, like, I never felt like myself. I never got my pre-baby body back until 2 years. Every single baby
Yeah.
took me 2 years. And I think acknowledging that it's no 9 month in, 9 month out. Like for me, it
Yep.
was 2 years.
Right.
And I think just like giving women permission for time. And
Yeah.
time is the hardest thing. We live in this microwave society. No one wants a
Right.
slow cooker. And to get your strength back, to get your mentality back, to get your sleep
Right.
back, to get any of that, it takes time.
Yeah. No, and I think that there's a couple things with that. Like, I think when you're pregnant the first time and you're thinking about going back to work postpartum and like, oh, by 4 months, everything should be right. And you're visualizing yourself doing exactly what you're doing right now. And you just happen to do drop off and pick up. And you mention breastfeeding or you mention feeding or things like that, but you don't really get what that means. I'm like, and that's where I get so upset is that how it's like we're lemmings on this like continuous track of like, how do we have so many women understanding what happens in reality? And then it's like they fall off the cliff and then a whole new set comes on and does the same thing over again. It's like, how do we stop that conveyor belt from happening? Because I feel like by now, my kids are 11 and 14. I feel like people should get it by now, and it's definitely better, but it's not perfect. Um, it's just, I don't know. I think the other thing, and this is a conversation a lot of us in physio are having lately, is our potential contributions historically to potentially deconditioning moms in pregnancy and early postpartum. And part of that is, I mean, let's go back to diastasis recti for a second. Like we didn't have a lot of research, or really didn't have any. And everything that we did was out of fear of making something worse. And so don't do abs in pregnancy. Don't do abs in early postpartum. If you have diastasis, don't do this, don't do that. Don't do sit-ups, don't do crunches, don't do squats. It's like, okay, a squat is getting up and off the toilet. A sit-up is getting out of bed at 2 a.m. for a screaming baby. Like, these are all functional movements. Why are we shutting it down? And now we have created a generation of women who are fearful of movement. And oh, by the way, are now entering perimenopause and menopause and didn't get the same treatment that I give my patients today. It's almost like we need to go back, put our arms around them, say, we're really sorry, fear kept you from moving and we need to get you caught up. Like, I think we're having more discussions about, and it wasn't intentional. We didn't know. And now that I think we're seeing that, really trying to get that message to those parts of the world that are still saying those things of like, actually, no, we need to get you caught up. We want to be doing abdominal work in pregnancy. We want to integrate it early postpartum, those sorts of things. Because we now have data that says, no, if you do that, that interecti distance isn't going to change. So go for it. But no, it's hard to look back, especially being a part of that generation and having my kids during that time that like, ooh, yeah, no, I my abs are still one of the hardest things and I have to navigate. Like,
It is such a learning curve. Like, you look back, there's things you would totally do differently.
didn't
Like, there's
know.
even, we look back at videos we filmed and I'm like, my form is so terrible. Like, what am I doing in that video? Like, you get better, right?
You don't know
Like,
what you don't know. And we didn't
you
know.
get better with more reps. You get
Yeah.
better with more reps. And so here we all are, hopefully getting better. But I mean, that is the number one question I think that lands in my DMs is like, I had my baby, when can I start working out again? Is like, when can I start doing breath work and following your core repair plan after
Yep.
baby? And like, when can I, and it is hard because again, there's variables. What kind of labor and delivery did you have? Did you have C-section? Did you have vaginal? Like, where, were you active before? When did you stop working out pregnancy? Like, so many variables that go into it. But like, I truly started, all of my breath work and everything and started like, 2-3 weeks. And it was like minimal. It was like me laying on the ground next to the, it's not like,
Yeah.
I think there's the misconception goes both ways where there's like this jealousy of women who are looking at other women like, you're exercising too soon. You shouldn't be doing that.
There's a lot
And
of
then
judgment.
there's so much judgment around it. It's like, I can't believe that. Did you see she went for a run at 6 weeks postpartum?
Yep.
She shouldn't do that. And then on the other side of the coin, there's like, yeah. So it's just, your body best. And that's what I've always come back to. Like,
Yeah.
you know your body best. For me, physical fitness was a requirement of my mental health postpartum. I struggled with postpartum depression really bad after my first. And like, fitness has been a consistency in my entire life. And then when you take that away from me and add all these other stressors, like my mental health. So for me, it was just like my husband knew, like when he got home from work or something, it was like, you take the baby, it's 20 minutes of me, whether that was like light, I wasn't
It didn't
going
matter.
out and crushing. It was just like, for me, physical fitness was a requirement for my mental stability.
Yeah. And again, like, I think we've got some new data within the last year that confirms that, which is, I mean, it's not groundbreaking, but it's nice to have it in black and white to be like, hey, we need to be doing this. Exercise is good for mental health. It's good for sleep. It's good for, the baby, all of these different things. And I think that's where my rigidity has I think it's gotten better. I think as an early physio, you think there's these hard and fast rules, and then you realize later, like, I remember a client once, her second kid, C-section, 3 weeks. She'd seen another physio, and the other physio had her doing like really basic stuff, and she was like very high level executive, and she came in and she's like, I need to be cleared to run. And I was like, oh. And the impression I got was that if I didn't figure out how to get her running sooner than later, something not great was going to happen. And that's where I'm like, we have to look at mom as a whole person. Like, if I tell her no, she's out. She's like, I've completely lost her attention. But if I help her figure out how to make that happen because it's going to help her mental health, and she's basically telling me that she's a second-time mom, it's not her first rodeo. If I can make that happen, then we're getting her supported. We're not doing her a disservice. But yeah, I always find too, like, if a mom is asking when they can run or when they can exercise, chances are they're not stuck in bed swollen. they can, move around, their kids sleeping, their kids eating, their nipples aren't hamburger meat. Like or, they're like, they recognize that they need that for mental health issues. If you're experiencing like obscene swelling, obscene pain, hamburger nipples, all that, you're not asking about exercise. And I know that because that was me. I was like, nope, wasn't on my radar screen because I had too many other things to put out.
Yeah. And that's such a good point, is like, if women are, I think it's a mental health outlet. It's a
Yeah.
recharging. And like you said, it's just like, you got to figure out what's best for you and your body. And
Yeah.
I always say the best form of working out is one that you're going to do and one you enjoy. So if there's something that you enjoy that has been taken away from you during pregnancy, maybe I have friends who have had, like, because of fertility issues, have had, very like significant limitations, bed rest, those things. And it significantly impacts their mental health
Mm-hmm.
during pregnancy. And then, like, as soon as they're cleared, or, as soon as postpartum, they're ready
Go
to
for it.
go. And you're
Yeah.
like, please tell me I can go take a class again,
Yeah.
because I have been, like, so refrained from being able to do that. So I just think that,
Yeah.
there's power in movement. I think it's so good for your mental health. It gets you in the community space, not feeling
Yeah.
isolated at home, which is like, I feel like one of the greatest gifts that I've been given is that, as someone who struggled with postpartum depression, now being on the flip side of the coin, I get to, like, film workout videos that are geared towards women postpartum and speak life into their home, because I might be the only other mom that, or human,
Right.
that they see that day that says
Yeah.
anything good to them. And
Yeah.
so that's just, like, I feel like one of the greatest gifts is, as someone who struggled
Yeah.
with mental health postpartum, is being able to be like, you got this, like,
Yeah.
you finish this workout, who cares? But, like, I hope you can weather the storm of picking up the toddler food that was thrown
Right.
away, and
Well,
just having that community and relatability.
well, I think there's so much to be said too, for experienced moms that have navigated all of that, because you're very much coming from not only a knowledge base from, kind of what you've done work wise over the years, but you're coming from a knowledge base of, like, you've experienced that. And, not that I was a bad PT before I had kids, but I definitely said things like if somebody's back hurts, I'm like, oh, just hold your baby on the other side. Yeah, right. I was like, maybe for 4 seconds, and then they're going right back to the left hip. Like, come on. Or like implying somebody wasn't trying hard enough. I'm like, like, I'm sorry to whoever all those people are that your kids are adults now, but no, but I think it means something different. I think when you navigated that space and navigated some of those hard times, and I know, kind of having navigated prolapse and diastasis and leakage and things like that, like, you understand in a way that nobody else can what those people are going through. It's so much more than a diagnosis, just like, the mental health challenges, like, you can hear about it, but, like, when you've felt that, and when you look at a telephone pole and you're like, hey, that would be really cool to drive into right now, you're like,
You've had those,
add those thoughts, and it's a safe space.
yeah. And like I said, you're probably in your space you're probably somewhat of a counselor as much as you are a public. I remember going into my pelvic floor physical therapy. I cried in that office.
Oh yeah. I have
Like,
I have the good tissues with the lotion. Yeah.
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 I mean, because it's just like, you're in the thick of it and you're just trying to figure it out, and, like, and feeling broken at the same time is really hard,
Yeah.
because you're just like, my body's not doing what it's supposed to do, or I've never experienced this. Tell me that this is
For sure.
not the way it's going to be for the rest of my life.
Right. Everything feels so permanent at that point.
Mhm.
I projected everything forward to, like, if I did the wrong thing, then my son was going to be screwed up till he was like 16 or something. So,
Right. Or I thought I was just going to be a milk horse for the rest of my life. And, here I am, totally free. Like, no longer
right,
doing it. But
exactly.
I remember having, like, these activity trackers, like, literally having to remove it from me, because it's constantly beeping, like, get up and move, get up and move. And you're like, no, I'm sitting and feeding a baby for 8 hours a day. Like,
Wow.
so just, like, taking the activity tracker off during that postpartum season was really life-giving for me, because I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to know. I don't need steps right now. Like, that's not my primary goal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's not to date myself or anything, but, like, we didn't have any of that. I mean, we barely we had an actual camera to take pictures of my oldest. So needless to say, it's hard to find those pictures, where we definitely do have more fun pictures of our second. No, it's crazy, but that, I feel like that's, to go full circle, like, that's where a lot of the obsession, I think, is about, what should I be doing? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? Like, I need to get back to this. Like, I feel like that's the negative side of, you know, sharing everything and everybody talking about everything. Like, yes, it builds community. Yes, you know, you can have free information and access to people with knowledge, but at the same time, it makes us so vulnerable to that comparison and judgment, and really that kind of that hard mental health aspect.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've come so far in technology in so many great ways, of the sense of
Yeah.
like, hands-free breast pumps now, where you can
Right.
literally have more freedom and do all these things and just not be tied. And there's so many advancements that have been made along the way. But like you said, now it's like I literally have the opportunity to walk alongside someone I have no idea who they are, complete strangers on the internet, who are in the same month of pregnancy doing and we're having
Hmm.
different experiences, or things are
Yeah.
going differently. And there's just that comparison. Or like you said, I think we just figure out, I'll never forget, I had this moment. My husband plays volleyball, and we were at one of his tournaments, and I'm walking with I don't know if it was our first or our second, in the stroller. And I was 6 months postpartum. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, we're 6 months. I think we're over the hump. Like, we got this. We've figured it out. And then the next morning, I remember like literally bawling in a Starbucks, wanting to rip his head off. And I was like, we don't have anything figured out. Like, it's
I,
just the emotional roller coaster of
I
these
still
times.
feel that way, but yeah, I don't have as many. Like, I don't think they're as frequent, but I still have those where I'm like, I don't know what to do with a teenage boy.
Yeah. So it's just like, I think there's these time things that have been set in place. Like
Yeah.
6 weeks, you go get a postpartum checkup, you're good to go.
Yeah.
By 4 months, you're back to work, and your
Right.
baby should be sleeping, and you should be this. And then by 6 months, like, baby should start to do this, and you should, and there's
Right.
milestones there's these milestones you're all held accountable to. And then
Yep.
it's like, you should be nursing for this long, or that, and it's
Yeah.
just,
The should list is very long
yeah.
and
So,
unnecessary.
yeah. Right.
Unnecessary.
So it can feel very overwhelming trying to navigate it all, but
Yeah.
it's so confusing. I mean, it's still confusing
Yeah.
yeah, to this day. So I think it's just we refer people to pelvic floor physical therapists all the time, because it's so personal.
Yeah. No, and again, I learned something new from, I mean, especially with all the equipment that's out there and stuff, inevitably somebody's always bringing something in new, and they're like, oh, have you seen this? I'm like, nope, but that's kind of a version of something we used to have, but much more automated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
We've
all
come a long
right.
way.
So what is coming up for you? I know for me, I felt I think probably around the same time that, with kids getting into school and finally having a regular schedule and things like that, and getting up in years, I felt a little less connected to kind of that early postpartum space, and was kind of looking ahead. And then last year did a nosedive into perimenopause. Um, are you thinking ahead to that?
Yeah, so I am in my late 30s, but we are getting asked, our community, and that information is circulating
Yep.
rapidly right now. And so
It's crazy.
perimenopause, menopause conversations are being had all over the place. And I am
Yep.
just like, and I think we've been at a deficit for so long of just research being done on females,
Hmm.
especially in the athletic space or the strength building space,
Yeah.
or the even now it's like, all the stuff that's coming out, cold plunging, sauna, like all the health and stuff that's coming out. It's like, how much of this research is geared towards females versus males? And then there's
Right.
different, like, females should be eating before workouts, men can do fasted. Like, there's just a plethora of information that is out there
Yep.
that is all conflicting or feels so
Yes.
confusing. And so,
Yes.
man, I'm like thinking about this. I'm like, how am I finally feel like I'm getting my body back, and like getting my, and now I'm going to have to go through perimenopause and menopause. Like, what is this? And so I feel like in my space right now, personally, I'm just
Hmm.
like, I'm in the camp of like, I am trying to be as strong as I'm trying to build as much muscle as I can to
Yep.
weather the storm that is coming ahead of me with
Yeah.
like menopause and perimenopause. So I'm
Yep.
really focused on building strength and continuing to share strength training for women. I just
Hmm.
like, when you talk about like the things that bother you, for me, it's always been these really athletic, strong looking women who are filming workout videos with 5 to 10 pound dumbbells. And it's like, you don't look like that by lifting that.
No, thank
It
you for
doesn't
saying that.
equate.
Thank you for saying that, because it doesn't, the math doesn't math
No. And so for me, that's always been, so for
without
me,
genetics.
yeah, yeah, some really good genetics. So for me, it's just continuing to teach women, like, we film our workouts, and you've seen my progress over time. Like, I started with the small weights and I was classic group fitness instructor,
Mhm.
10 pounds, do as many squat thrusters as you can, and then jump into burpees. And then, and so I've
Yeah.
just come a long way in that learning pattern. And so just really continuing to encourage women. My favorite messages are, I can finally do push-ups on my toes. I did my
Yeah.
first pull-up. I got 25-pound, 30-pound dumbbells. Like, just
Yeah.
seeing women, like, just empowering women to continue to
Yeah.
get stronger, especially as we know that we're losing mass as we
Yeah.
get older. And just the importance of still continuing to be athletic. And, we hear this
Yep.
like, hit is bad for you, no jumping, low impact everything. And it's like, I'm an athlete at heart. I grew up playing sports. I love athleticism. I think that's what differentiates our workouts is they are a little bit more athletic. You're not going
Mhm.
to see me doing a lot of like girly movements
Yeah.
necessarily. Like, we're just athletic. Like, I move in all planes of motion. I love box jumps. I love athletic movements. And so I
Yeah.
build that stuff into my programs and just
Mhm.
continuing to show women, like, you can jump and you can
Right.
move athletically, and it's actually really good for your bones.
Yeah.
So really excited about just continuing and sprinting and, just getting out.
Yeah.
And like, the best hamstring exercise is probably a full out, all out effort sprint if
Yeah.
you really want to build strong hamstrings.
No, and I'm so glad to hear you say that because, I'm actively in the menopause dumpster fire myself and weeding through it, not only as an individual, but as a provider, it's a shit show. Like, I'm not going to lie. And the one thing that we know is that resistance training is king, queen, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's what we know. Everything else is crap. Even like when we're eating, like all that stuff. And I think that's the hard thing that we're going to see right now is on one hand, we have some really loud voices that are bringing awareness, but there might be a shred of truth and then a lot of misinformation and a lot of misquoting of research. And I think we're finally seeing more researchers in that space starting to call that out as it becomes. And so again, the one thing that we can agree on is resistance training is good. And that's the conversation that I'm having with a lot of my postpartum moms. I'm like, look, if you're not doing this, maybe we don't start right now, but I want you to get that. We're going to. I need you to know that it's coming. You just need to wrap your head around it, however that's going to look, whatever your entry and gateway drug is to this, we're going to do this. And then the other things, I love what you said about jumping and sprinting, because there's a huge balance component to that. And that's one of the things that we do know diminishes as we age. And to decrease that fall risk, we want to be sure, our balance is good. And what better way to do that than to, find that agility. And that's one of the biggest issues that moms have when they go back to running is they feel like they're running through molasses. And I'm like, well, because you're not doing any agility or jump training or anything like that, because of course they don't want to, because it makes them pee. So great, let's navigate all this stuff now so that when you get to peri, but that was the point that I wanted to come back to was I am seeing a ton of postpartum moms that they're just barely through postpartum and they're hyper focused on perimenopause. And really the moms that are in peri before age 40, they tend to have ovarian insufficiency. So they may have, fertility issues or things like that. But really, most moms aren't going to start to have those symptoms until their 40s. But I find these moms, it's almost like they have FOMO and they're like, all right, what's next? What's next? I was like, this isn't like you have the boyfriend, you have the wedding, you have the kids, and then you do the postpartum and then you do the peri. Like, no, like I was talking to a peri mom the other day. We're like, can we just have this? Like, you guys got really great postpartum. We did not. Can we just figure out peri? You guys just hold your horses. We'll figure it out. We'll let you know. I promise we'll pass it back.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing so many moms, like early moms, and they're like, yeah, I'm doing my weighted vest. It's my toddler. I'm like, not same thing. You can have that.
Do the weighted vest. I was like, that means I feel like it's an official sign that you're 40. I'm not there yet. I'm not doing the weighted vest. Just like these trends. It's amazing the power of social media.
Oh my God.
Now everybody must walk with a weighted vest.
It hurts my soul. Did you see, I did a post on that the other day, and this is going to air a while after that. But no, I looked into the literature and one of the major influencers that has talked about it, Mary Claire Haver, I appreciate what she's done. If you go back and look at her reference list, it's all postmenopausal. is where the data comes from. Because again, nobody's really taken the time to do perimenopause. And so they're just extrapolating. And again, I love extrapolating. That's where we've gotten our information as far as postpartum return to run. The 2019 UK guidelines were like, hey, this is what we know kind of about females and kind of about running, and we're just going to do the best we can. Like, I get that, but I think we need to be transparent about, no, we don't know this. And if you're not exercising, this is not your start. You should start general exercising first. If you're not doing resistance training, why don't you start there first? If you're already doing resistance training and you're already walking, maybe this would be something to help you. And also, if you're walking and you're looking for something to make you feel better about when you walk, I'm all about like zhuzhing up to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do. But I think we need to be really, really clear with people. And this is where I in the perimenopausal space, because we're dealing with fluffy middles and body image and stuff again, which is a very true thing, I will tell you. People are looking for that immediate thing. And I'm like, well, are we looking at bone density changes? Are we actually looking in perimenopausal women? How many of these people are actually predisposed? Like, there's a lot of questions and a lot of things that need to be sorted out, and a lot of claims that are not completely validated yet. And so I think that's the part that I would caution a community that's getting some good pregnancy and postpartum information that is going in print, that we don't have that. So you don't take it out of your shopping cart on Amazon. You don't need it yet.
Right. Yeah,
You don't need to look like a 40s mom yet. If you're in your 30s, trust me, you'll get there. I promise.
You're right. And so that's where I'm like, for me, I'm not
Slow
there
roll.
yet, but it's like,
Yeah.
the things that I can do to prepare myself is basically like,
Yes.
we know resistance training is through and through. The thing that I
Yes.
struggle with right now is the recommendations for resistance training that are coming out around menopause and perimenopause, because it's like really saying you should be lifting really heavy for like 4 to 6 reps. And most women are not conditioned to do that.
No.
Like you have not been trained, you're not lifting heavy enough, you don't know the movements well enough, like to be going that heavy, and where you're like 4 to 6 reps is your max. It's just not, we grew up in I grew up in the, if you're a millennial or even I think the generation above me, and we grew up in like the 15
Yeah.
pounds,
Yep.
cranking out 20 reps, whatever.
Mhm.
And so to jump from that to doing 4 to 6, like to me, it just feels like we're setting people up for injury, especially because, joints, and we know all this as
Yeah.
we age, our joints are not as, they're not going to handle as much load. And so if you're not conditioned, I think I love heavy resistance training. Don't
Mhm.
get me wrong,
Yeah, me
but the
too.
recommendation for it, I think, needs to be much more led up to like this is not something you jump into. You don't just jump into
No.
going to 4 to 6 reps. You don't jump into 8
No.
reps. You start with body weight,
So this
master the
is, yeah.
movement.
So you're highlighting on, I think we're talking about the same person too. A lot of that stuff isn't validated either. And I think that's the thing to pay attention to. And again, like, um, a, the louder voices right now, the ones that are being highlighted, are getting, they're in conflict of some of the actual scientists doing some of the data here in this space. And so that's what I would just caution people to wait. And then the other thing is, some of these recommendations are for the 5%. Like, hey, yeah, you've been already doing this if you want to optimize this more. But if you're not, to your exact point, why don't we just start with lifting first? Why don't we?
Yeah.
And the thing is, you don't have to do that specific thing, because anybody who starts to lift weights, who's never lifted weights before, guess what? You're going to get stronger.
Yeah.
So, and this is where, again, I think this is the same thing that we literally started this conversation with, of moms wanting to do the right thing, right? And so we want to do the right thing. So we're going to highlight into that, 6 to 8 reps or whatever that is, not realizing that we missed the foundational of, why don't you pick up a weight? Why don't we build a space and a community where you feel comfortable lifting up a weight, you feel safe, you know what you're doing, and you feel consistent. And then we'll go from there if you need to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the progressive overload is great. I'm like a huge fan of it. It's just like there has to be an on ramp, right? Like you have
Yeah.
to
Well, that's what progressive overload. You got to start somewhere. You don't start at the
Right.
top. You got to start with
So,
the
like,
foundation to progressively overload. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
No,
just
we're saying
like
the same thing.
an on ramp for everything.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I always come back to tell people, like, if you don't genuinely enjoy lifting heavy, and like Pilates
Mhm.
is your jam, or swimming is your jam, or running is your jam, like, yes, you will always benefit from resistance training,
Mhm.
but the most enjoyable workout and the one you're actually going to do is the one you enjoy. So like
Yeah. So
there
start
is not
there.
all movement is good movement.
Yeah.
All the trends that are blowing up on TikTok, the stair stepper, the whatever, any movement is good movement. Can I
Yep.
tell you that you will get better results through doing this? Like it, I live in the YouTube space too. So no
Hmm.
repeat workouts like blown up. They get the most views. And as a trainer, I'm just like dying inside
No.
that film a no repeat workout to get views because I'm like, this is not efficient. You should not just do one set of squats and then move on to a bicep curl and then do this and then do this and then do this. I'm like,
No. How do you
while
know
this
you're getting
workout,
stronger anyway if you don't repeat?
no. So I'm like, but they get the most
I
views
know.
because
I
people
know.
love to like just go through a workout,
No, and
And
that's the
so
part is science is boring and like facts are boring. And that's where we are. And
a
sorry,
squat
people.
takes 3 sets or 4 sets
Right.
or five. It's
Boring.
boring.
Yeah, exactly. But guess what? If you want to get actual change, boring works. And maybe it takes us getting to menopause to realize that. I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, okay, we could talk. We could do a whole other episode on that. All right. At the end of every episode, I ask a couple questions. What's a book you're reading or podcast that you're listening to right now?
Oh, but well, I'm currently reading, man, I don't even know his name, but I think it's like this what is it now? There's something of wealth. I get his email. Sahi Bloom. Is it Bloom? Something
Okay.
of wealth. I don't even know the title of it, but basically it breaks down like time, wealth, financial, like what we all say, we want out of life.
Hmm.
And it's really good. It's just
Oh,
you
good.
should have it. I like it. It's just like you should have your North Star. What is your North Star? Like what is your
Mm,
mantra you live by? For me, it's like I wake up early, I do hard things, I read my Bible, I work hard, I'm generous. Like have your North Star that you come back to. This is my North Star. This is who I am. So I really like that. It goes through the series of wealth. I should know what the title of the book is. I have so many books on my nightstand
I
that
do
I
too.
literally I don't know what the titles are. I just read them.
I know, me too.
So I'm flipping back and forth between that and like habits of the household, and then I have one on my nightstand for. I don't read fiction. I have 3 fiction books, and I I have a productivity-aholic problem. So reading fiction feels like a
Oh,
lapse of
I
good
hope
use
you
of
grow out of that. It's
time.
not, it's
I've
not,
read
it's
one
one of
fiction
those
book and I
things
haven't really read
that
it.
if you let your brain go into like, I don't know, summer read mode and then come back out of it, it's a little bit sharp. Like I have to go back in and out, or I have a certain time of day that I'll read fiction, which is right before I go to bed because I can't get through very many pages because I fall
Yeah.
asleep. But no, it's like I've learned a strategic place to put that is like I need to have my brain like a little mushy so that it can come back sharper. Otherwise, it's just like
So my goal is to read a fiction book this summer. That is on
you
my list. And then,
you can do it.
yeah, podcasts. They're listening to a business podcast like Jenna Kutcher, the Gold Digger, some type of like business podcast, or the Huberman podcast. I like scientific data. I
Hmm.
just listened to the Huberman podcast on how to learn a skill faster, and I thought that was really
Mm.
interesting. So I love
He's
learning.
I have some issues with him, but we'll move on.
There's good, and you take what you get. There's good enough of it, right? So for me, it's just always like I love listening and consuming the data, and then you have to
Mhm.
sift through and decide what data you want to move
Yeah,
forward.
I don't have time to sift through his. All right.
I like to honestly. I listen to it for my 8-year-old. I want my 8-year-old to
Oh,
it's how to learn a skill, like a physical skill, like
okay.
shooting. He's really active right now, but he gets
Okay.
frustrated really easy with
Okay.
sports, and so I wanted to listen to it for his sake, and because you learn more from your failed reps than you do
Yes, of
your
course. Yep.
you learn, and it's just a rep game and just not. So I was listening to it for how to approach shoots with my 8-year-old.
Okay. Well, then that's fine. Well, we'll stick with that one. All right. What's favorite activity since becoming a mom?
Oh, playing outside with my kids. I just love being
Yeah,
outside, being at the park. We're just an active family. So
that's
being outside,
great.
I'm super looking forward to Minnesota summer coming up and being on the lake with them.
I was gonna say, did the snow melt finally up there? Or
It's finally gone. The snow is gone. It's still not
okay.
warm out, but we're getting
It's
there.
cold. It's 31 here this morning. I'm like, mm-mm. But
No, I'm ready for summer.
we're very bipolar. It was like 85 a week ago and it was 31 this
Same.
morning. So yeah,
Same.
I don't like it, but this is what we have. All right. What's one piece of advice for moms?
Lower your expectations.
Nice. Nice. We're just going
These
to
are
let
advice I'm
that
giving
one,
myself constantly. Lower your expectations.
we're going to let that one marinate like that. Who is someone in your space we should know about? Who's got your attention right now?
Oh yeah, I love I love a lot of people in my space right now. I think there's so many people putting out good information, and free resources, which I really appreciate. I love my friends, the Real Food Dietitians. They put out free meal plans. I love dietitian backed meals,
Mm-hmm.
that are easy and accessible for mom, 30-minute meals. I love my friends, the dietitians. Um, in the fitness space, I like Get Mom Strong, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Get Mom
Yep.
Ashley? I love her, just like, kind of same no BS approach to just, we're not sugarcoating it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to grow your glutes, you got to lift heavy. And so I really like her content too. I like Ashley from Get Mom Strong.
Cool.
And yeah, I'm trying to think of who else I really love following right now, but I really enjoy, I don't know.
Sometimes
There's
I
a
know
lot.
handles and not people, or I can visualize their face and I'm like, I have no idea what their name is.
Yeah.
It
Uh-huh.
happens. It happens. Are
Yep.
you, you mentioned, starting in the blog space. Are you ever going to did you watch that Julie and Julia movie?
Yeah, I'm
Um,
not.
what?
No.
Isn't it like Meryl Streep and then the woman who wrote the book, I think she passed away of COVID. But she wrote a blog, 365 days of Julia Child's
I
recipes
know.
of the joy of
Yeah,
cooking. Yeah. So are you going
I
to
know
do
what
like
happened.
365 days where you're going to pretend to be like Richard Simmons or something, or no?
Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. My husband, there's this one video on YouTube my husband does all the time. It's like 8-minute abs, and the guy, he is like a Richard
Mm-hmm.
Simmons Park, and the video has like 8 million, and I'm just like, it's like he's in his little spandex outfit. And he's like, "Come on, gang!" And he's like, "See you back in 24 hours." And I was
You'd
like,
have to go throwback, like either Richard Simmons or like Jack LaLange or something like that. You'd have to do like super throwback, but I think you could do it complete with
"A
outfits.
strong Jane Fonda."
Jane Fonda, yep.
Great.
Yeah,
Jane Fonda.
exactly. Right. All right, last one. What does it mean to you to be an active mom?
Oh, I love that question. Honestly, I think it's just moving, being with your kid, being outside, like throwing the football, and it doesn't have to be. But I think also, and maybe it separates a little bit, but like having your own goals. And I think that's something
Yeah.
that, like, my husband and I have, just like, I always have my own goals. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can
Hmm.
decide you want to do a 5K. I have no training official goal. I'm not training for a race. I'm not training for anything other
Hmm.
than I have a goal to do 15 consecutive pull-ups. And so, like, me and my kids are always getting on the pull-up bar and having competitions. And
That's so cool.
my 8-year-old set a goal to do one pull-up by the end of the year, and he can already do three. And I was like,
They're
"Oh,
so
you little."
strong at that age. I know it's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah. I was like, "How did you did that in like 4 months? You got to set a higher goal." So I think just
Yeah.
showing your kids, like,
Yeah.
that when we're at the playground, mom does pull-ups on the monkey bar. Mom can do the monkey bars too. And
Hmm.
I want to work on mobility and having active joints, so I can crawl into those small spaces and go down the slide with them, and just being able to do what
Yeah.
they can do.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. All right, we're going to finish there. If you want to find out more about Lindsey and her free online programs, you can find her on Instagram at Nourish Move Love. Lindsey Bomgren, I'm so glad we finally got to chat and we got our circles smashed up together. Thanks for all the stuff that you do, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for all the content you put out and allowing us to partner and share it. I love your Return to Run program. I'll always suggest
Thanks.
it to women.
Thank you. If you're navigating pregnancy, postpartum, or perimenopause, whether personally or professionally, check out all our free resources and upcoming courses at carriepagliano.com. This podcast reflects the opinions of Dr. Carrie Pagliano and her guests, and it is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider with any medical questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. And thanks for listening.